What's going on, gamers? This is DBMgamer here, and we're so close to the launch that what I really wanted to do today was actually do a tips video for the game, since we're all about to delve into it. And what tip do I have? Actually, one of the most basic ones in the game: getting your controller right. But before we can get into any of that, I've got to get to my shoutouts. My shoutouts is how I show appreciation back to the community that has gotten me this far. So I've got to give shoutouts to Mac1525, Dustin Speaker, Sam Gordon, Stephen Bosama, Tony Weewison, Crack-a-Black, Hector Negrin, Orion D-Lead, B-Whale, and Brian Smith. So guys, on 9/9, when you manage to get your copy of Destiny, the first thing I want you to do before you go traipsing around the stars is to get your controller set up right. You want it to feel as natural as possible to you, and that way you increase your chances of survivability in the Crucible and in the story missions. If you're like me and you play a lot of first-person shooters, you want to get a control scheme that's going to be pretty much instantly natural to you. So let's run over the control schemes real fast. Alright, you have the default. Now this is pretty standard. Now this kind of is where your Halo setup is going to be. The melee and the grenades are on the top, which makes them pretty easy to use. And the super is a dual press on both bumpers. If you also play a little bit of Street Fighter, this should be cake for you as well. Now the reason why this is the default setup is that most gamers will probably feel comfortable quickly with this setup. Alright, so now on to the green thumb. Now with this setup, the melee is swapped with R3. Now this is like a COD setup, a Call of Duty setup. Now this will give you a much quicker melee since you have it right underneath your thumb, since your thumb never leaves the analog, unless you get in the situation where you're jumping. Now the only thing that's pretty bad about this setup is it switches the highlight player to an actual, to me, a face button, which is R1. So it's kind of a waste of a good button, but if you play COD, this is what you'd be most comfortable with, so that's what I would recommend, is the green thumb. Now the cold shoulder, which is also a very similar setup to a COD setup, just simply switches the grenade and the player highlight button. Now on to the puppeteer. The puppeteer is going to be my choice for a controller setup. Now what this does is this swaps the crouch and the highlight player button. Now why would you want to put the crouch on the R3? Well, it gives you one small advantage: when you slide. Now I know what you're thinking, gamer, I did the slide, you only go a very short distance. Well, when you get the full game, there are several pieces of equipment that will allow you to extend your slide, giving you a huge advantage over your opponents. So if you're like me and you come from Battlefield, the puppeteer controller setup is for you. Alright, next up is jumper. The jump button is now moved to a shoulder button, allowing jumping while aiming. Now keep in mind, your movement ability for both the Titan and the Warlock are going to be cancelled when you aim down sights. At least that's how it worked in the beta. Now another big change for it is the super command is moved to X, so you wouldn't need to tap two buttons at the same time to trigger your special. Now this can be pretty simplistic if you're having an issue with hitting the L1 and the R1 at the same time. Now the only real bad side effect of the jumper is the fact that now that you don't have your super assigned to L1 and R1 and it's assigned to a face button, is that when you go to fire your special, you don't have as quick of an aim because your thumb has to leave your aiming analog, so it can affect your accuracy if that's an issue. Now lastly is mirror. Now the only thing that mirror does is mirror the shoulder buttons. I'm not really sure who this setup is for, maybe if you're left-handed, but hey, if it floats your boat, go for it, man. Because guys, I gotta tell you, having the right controller setup may make the difference in slaying a space turtle, or not. Alright guys, well that's all I've got for today. If you like this type of content, just feel free to like or a comment, or if you just want to see more, hit that subscribe button. But as always, have a good one.